Welcome teachers and students to the Cyber in a Box School Video Challenge. This year's challenge topic is sponsored by the Idaho National Lab through a grant that was funded to the Cyber Wyoming Alliance. And the challenge topic this year is critical energy infrastructure, how to secure it, what some of the pros and cons are. And so today, I just happen to have somebody in my family with us. This is my brother, Scott Haynes. And he has been working in the wind energy, well, I'm going to share my screen, industry since he was this tall. This is us in 1982 at Medicine Bow, Wyoming. We were there for Medicine Bow Days, which used to be quite a big event, kind of like a rodeo, but they didn't have a rodeo. They had other events like chucking cow pies to see how far you could go. And even at that time, my little brother Scott was very interested in wind energy. And Scott, do you want to tell us about this picture a little bit?
Sure. This is the Bureau of Reclamation's Hamilton Standard wind turbine. It's a 2 megawatt turbine. I think it had about an 80-meter rotor diameter. I think, yeah, as Laura said, this is, I want to say 1982. And this was the opening ceremony that they were celebrating that this all came together. There's another turbine located on site that was made by Boeing. I do not have a picture of that one.
So my brother has been in this industry for a very long time, very interested in it. I think you even built a Lego wind turbine, didn't you, at some point in time? I know you built
maybe
a ski lift, but yeah, it's definitely something that has been near and dear to his heart for most of his life. And growing up in Wyoming, you know, the thought of harnessing the wind that is here so prominently is definitely something that was on his mind since 1982 and before probably. So it's a great picture. I wanted to start out the conversation with that. So Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career in the wind energy business.
Sure. Well, I started off at the University of Wyoming, of course, in the engineering program. And from there went into physics, but my emphasis has always been on weather. And so I've kind of morphed, a love of weather and physics into the wind industry, and basically, coming up with production estimates for assets that are in development, assets being like a wind farm. So if you want to build a brand new wind farm, I'd be sort of on the end of things where you say, hey, this wind farm is going to make this many megawatt hours, and megawatt hour is equated to dollars, and basically that's sort of where I fit into the business. So I've worked at a number of different developers of wind power, and I've also worked for operators of wind turbines as well. Really, there's no sort of no technical aspect of the industry I haven't touched at this point in time.
So tell us the difference between an operator and a developer.
Well, so developers are out there. There might be an open field, and they're just looking at this and dreaming of the day when they can put wind turbines in that field. An operator would, there'd be several. They already have a wind farm, and they're trying to maximize the revenue they make off of that wind farm and minimize the amount of effort they put into maintaining it.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to start with some of the basics about where are the Wyoming wind farms. And Scott found this windexchange.energy.gov website for us. And I'm going to share my screen briefly. And teachers, we will have this in a resource guide for you. But this is the map of Wyoming, and Scott knows where most of these are. So I'm going to let him talk a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, so the primary focus area is the Medicine Bow area north of Rock River, south of Casper Highway 487. This is honestly, it's there because it's a low spot in the Continental Divide. It sort of forms a natural venturi that speeds up the wind that comes through there. And it's been studied by by atmospheric scientists from the University of Wyoming since the late 70s. It's, I think there's probably over 1,000 megawatts of wind in this area right now. So this is like the premium resource that the state has. Other areas include the area between Laramie and Cheyenne and the Laramie Range. We have a couple of assets up there. And then over by Douglas, I know less about these ones. I've never been involved in those. And then there's some near Evanston as well.
Okay, awesome. So if you're in those communities, teachers, reach out to the owners of those wind farms, and you might be able to get a tour of those, or at least talk to them and have a subject matter expert come in to. It would be the owner, right? Not the developer, Scott. Is that what it is?
Usually somebody that's doing operations and maintenance,
Okay.
typically. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So you've mentioned megawatt a couple of times. So, according to this resource, and this was from 2022, and the megawatts under construction are mostly completed now. So this would be about 6,000 megawatts. How many homes, just in general, does 1 megawatt power?
Well, I think it's about 600 homes, maybe 700. So there's 6,000 megawatts, and 600, I mean, several homes. I don't want to do the math here on screen.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they can do the math, but if 1 megawatt is 600 to 700 homes, then they can figure that out themselves. But that's awesome. Thank you. And then,
Yeah.
and so are all of these wind farms that are down here in central and southeastern Wyoming, and then also southwest Wyoming, tell us a little bit about, how are they connected to the internet? How are they connected to the internet? Do they actually have to, put fiber optic line to get to these wind
Yeah.
farms?
Every single turbine, with a very few exceptions, has what they call a SCADA system in it, and they monitor signals from hundreds and hundreds of channels. I mean, the modern turbines can have 400 channels of data coming off of them at a time, and each one of these channels is a data signal that travels over fiber optics to a plant controlling computer, and that plant controlling computer is typically hooked up to the internet, so that operators can turn them on, turn them off, and respond to situations as needed.
So SCADA, you said SCADA, and I've heard this many times. That's for teachers. It's S, capital C, capital A, capital D, capital A. And I actually don't know what the acronym stands for.
Supervisory control and data acquisition.
Okay, so you do.
Yeah.
I'm glad you do. So
yeah, it's common in not just the wind industry, but in municipal water treatment and all over the place. Everybody uses a SCADA system. So
and the SCADA system is it's if you drive by like a big power plant, they're probably running a SCADA system or an oil refinery,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
100%.
So it's really for these big plants, but it's out there in the wind turbines too. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. And each individual turbine has its own unique system, and then those talk to a plant controlling computer that monitors maybe hundreds of turbines. So it's complicated
So
very quickly.
I have a friend that used to that lived in Arlington and was in charge of the wind farm there, and they were watching for eagles, and if they saw one, they would shut down the wind turbines. Is that how they do it, through the SCADA system?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
That's and they can shut it down for other reasons, not just eagles. I mean, more common reasons would be the grid has a reliability issue. Maybe there's too much power on the grid at one point in time, so they might ask to curtail it. So they'll say, hey, please turn off your turbines until further notice, and turn them back on again when the reliability issue has gone away.
So let's talk about that reliability issue. That's kind of interesting. What can cause you said the grid can be overloaded. Can there be too much wind? Do you have to shut these turbines off if there's really high winds?
It does happen. I mean, particularly in places like Texas, where they have quite a bit of wind on the system. I mean, tens of thousands of megawatts. Um, you know, quite frequently they'll get price signals where it's at the wholesale level. It actually, the price goes negative, and it will cost an operator money to continue generating uh, for a period of time. So they'll want to shut their turbines down, basically.
That's interesting. So it could actually cost them money to run their wind turbines. So and that's in Texas. And so let's talk about that a little bit more because to me that's really important information to have. So they have a SCADA system, but it's got to be hooked up to some sort of cost benefit monitoring, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Most
So there's
most
more
operators
computers. Yeah.
yeah, there's more computers. Most operators have a cost benefit model of, you know, where they should turn turbines on, where should turn them off. They view this wind farm as an asset, and they're trying to maximize, the profit they get out of it. They're just managing it as best they can. So they know exactly when these things go on and go off, should go
So,
on and go off.
so since we're talking about Texas, a few years ago, there was a major grid failure in parts of Texas, and some people blamed it on clean energy, like wind and solar, and they were, if you look at the articles, they were pretty misinformed. It wasn't just that it was really a weather event. But would you talk about that weather event and
Sure.
how some of those operators saved their turbines from that cold weather and what they did? That would be really interesting.
No, this is Winter Storm Uri, and it was a major disruption of the Texas grid. Um, several people I know did operate turbines through that period. And initially, Winter Storm Uri is also, it sounds ferocious, but this is actually the fuel that makes wind turbines run. Winter storms are great. So initially, a lot of the operators were making very good revenues off of Winter Storm Uri. It's my understanding that, after the initial storm passed, the cold remained and the wind died down, and then they lost a lot of their revenue shortly thereafter. But this is just kind of how it works. The wind comes up and you make money, the wind goes down and you don't. Um, at the same time, I think it was a collaboration with different people that operate turbines and know the nuances of doing that, and they were able to, like, make their turbines operate at low temperatures. It was extremely cold at the time. It wasn't a black and white situation, but renewables, certainly didn't kick off during the Winter Storm Uri. They were for the most part around, although there are exceptions to the rule.
Mhm. Well, and I can tell you in Wyoming, we have cold temperatures all the time. So we were like, well, why aren't their wind turbines working? Ours work.
Yeah. Well, so when you go out and buy a wind turbine, you can actually buy the hot weather package or the cold weather package, or, you could, some manufacturers let you buy the hot and the cold weather package, but some won't, so it's very turbine specific. There's several different manufacturers of wind turbines, and in Texas in general, it's hotter more than it's cold. So a lot of those people just chose to buy the hot package.
Ah, that's interesting. I
So,
didn't know that. That's cool.
yeah.
And so that answers my question of ours work, why don't yours? So I did not know there was a hot
I
weather package
I
and a
mean,
cold weather package.
no, there are turbines installed like in northern Canada. I mean, I
Mhm.
assure you, they actually have de-icing on the blades and things like that. So I mean, it's yeah, no, they can operate very cold if prepared for it.
So that de-icing on the blades, obviously they don't have somebody up in scissor lifts way up high de-icing like a plane. Is that also computer controlled?
I'm sure it is. I'm not terribly familiar with the system.
You
because
haven't, you haven't,
I work primarily in the US, so I
okay.
just heard about it.
You just heard about it. That's interesting, though. Maybe that would be something that the students could research and see how that works and see how it's secured. And that's my next question is, okay, all of these turbines are connected to a control center. Each one has each turbine windmill has computers in it. They're all connected to the internet and they're talking to the control center where the operator is running this entire farm trying to maximize their profit. How do you protect that infrastructure? Because these don't have, do they have antivirus on them? They're not like a regular computer that they put, you have antivirus software on them and, do they have
Well,
firewalls? What do they have?
well, the answer to that is pretty complicated. I'm not the subject matter expert on it, but I can tell you, if you want to go out and buy a wind turbine today, um, it is sort of baked into the very beginning of the discussions. How are you going to protect this thing from cyber attack and whatnot? The plant computers are sort of like normal computers, and they probably do run, a typical antivirus software and are patched regularly and that sort of thing. Again, not the subject matter expert, but I can tell you that as far as individual SCADA systems, well, they link via the plant computer. So I think that's probably the how it all functions. But
Okay. So
yeah.
knowing that you're not the subject matter expert on this, and I appreciate that you say that. So this is what I'm envisioning, and I just want to make sure that I don't have this wrong. I'm envisioning like 20 wind generators, wind turbines out there in a field in Wyoming somewhere. And each one of them has a internet fiber line connected to the control office, wherever that is. And the control office is running the SCADA systems that are talking back and forth to the wind turbines. And then that control office, securing that control office is a big deal. Making sure that, you have the firewall and the antivirus and the patch and all the things that you would normally have in that control off in any office, but you would want to make sure that that's that
Yeah.
is protected. Is
No,
that
absolutely.
accurate?
No, absolutely. I mean, that plant computer is I guess not a single point failure, but I mean it's fairly critical.
Okay.
So yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's it. That's good. I just want to make sure I kind of had that figured out. So these control offices, where are they? I mean, is the Douglas wind farm, is that in Douglas or are they
Yeah,
out in the middle of
they would
nowhere?
the plant control computers would be like on site. Yes, absolutely. There's not usually an operations and maintenance building at every wind farm, and
Mhm.
that would be where they're located. Now there might be an operations center sort of thousands of miles away that has direct communications with that computer, because those are the folks that know the when to turn them on and when to turn them off, and so
So
they
sometimes on these wind farms, I see a hut. Is that where the computer is possibly?
it could be. It
Could
could
be.
be.
Don't know.
Normally operations centers are going to be a little bigger than a hut, because periodically they have to, do some pretty heavy maintenance, take a nacelle down, roll it inside. So they'll usually have a big garage door and
Oh,
quite
okay.
a bit of space to work on stuff. Um, but
Oh, it's more like
you
a
know,
warehouse.
it it is. It's
Mhm.
going to be several thousand square feet,
Okay.
and with space to do some mechanic work. I mean, basically, people that work on these things are a combination of mountain climbers and auto mechanics. Very, working on equipment that's much bigger than your typical car.
Well, and
But
there's an apprenticeship program in Wyoming for this too, to have this. So, um, I just heard about it. I don't know much about it, but, what a cool job. I mean, if you're not afraid of heights. Now,
yeah,
Scott, you've been up in one of these. Tell me about that.
yes. It is, I described it as mountain climbing. It is mountain climbing. So, a modern turbine might have a hub height of 100 meters, which is 300 feet. Think about this: you climb 3 in a day. It's the equivalent of climbing Medicine Bow Peak. I mean,
Mhm.
it's it's quite a bit of work. Add onto that your mechanics tools, and you can understand, you know, when's the last time you climbed Medicine Bow Peak with 50 pounds of tools in your bag? I don't know. It can be tough. Now, modern wind turbines also have elevators, and that's kind of a plus.
I would imagine. Yeah,
Yes.
for sure. Now, all of these are connected through fiber cables, but is there any Wi-Fi capabilities? So if I was driving by a wind farm and I knew how to connect via Wi-Fi to one of the wind turbines, would I be able to do it?
No, in general, they do not have Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty noisy environment in a turbine itself, electrically noisy, which is why they use optical fiber in the first place.
Mhm.
So there's not a lot of spurious radio transmissions now. O&M building might have a Wi-Fi network for individuals working out there. These things are often in rural places and might not have great cell phone coverage. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, let me just check my questions real quick and make sure I got all of them. Um, let's see. Oh, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is the Casper landfill. Um, you and I both, we don't know this firsthand. This is just stuff that we've heard, but tell me about what you've heard about the Casper landfill and the wind energy business.
Oh, well, I mean, it's been very lucrative for Casper to have a energy business. There's been a lot of repowering activities. Old wind farms, plus 10, 15 years old, they've reached their useful life, and they get repowered with brand new turbines. Sometimes they build those new turbines on top of existing towers because those towers are fairly substantial. But what they'll do is they'll take the old blades and they'll recycle. They bury them, and it's typically done out of Casper. So Casper's kind of a where a lot of this stuff heads. It's basically burying fiberglass in the ground, but it has helped modernize the business, and yeah, it's another connection between Wyoming and the wind business.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of people don't know about that, and that Casper, the city landfill, is making money off of the wind industry when the blades are no longer useful. And I think that's pretty cool just to have that extra ounce of revenue for the state of Wyoming. Scott, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about wind energy, or any encouragement you'd like to give to students if they're interested in going into this industry?
I mean, I would encourage you. It's been a great industry for me. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I've, like everybody else that's probably going to watch this. I grew up in Wyoming. It's very windy. Um, Sometimes the wind seems unpleasant when you're pedaling your bicycle to school, but geez, people are out there making money off of it and having a good time, and it's good for local economies. So I hope that you consider a career in the field.
Thank you. Thanks. And thanks for being with us here today, Scott. I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you taking your time out of your busy workday to talk to me and the students and educators about wind energy and protecting our critical energy infrastructure.
You bet. I had a fun time, and I'll talk to you later, Laura.
Talk to you soon.